Hello. Today I'm going to take a deeper dive into the critical success factors, what you have to get right if you are leading an organizational change initiative that you hope is sustainable, like you want the change to stick. Hi, Lisa Jackson here with Culture Pros, where we help companies change for the good of people, for the good of society, and for the good of their growth and well-being. So if you are leading any big change. So that could be a merger, it could be a digital transformation initiative, it could just be that you're implementing a new strategy or a new culture in your organization to align people to the change. There are some real big factors that I have seen over and over in the 2 decades I've been doing this work that derail that change, and that you might be on a great path, but as soon as the consultants leave or the program is over, the culture slips back or the organization slips back to the way things were done before. So I want to caution you around 3 critical areas that you've got to get right in order to ensure that the change sticks. Let's look at 3 must-dos to get that transformation right in a way that builds trust, that builds confidence in the future, and that attracts and retains the best people in your company. So number 1, first key is purpose. Purpose is your pole star. In the same way that the North Star, which aligns to the North Pole, is a guiding navigation force for many, many decades, years, hundreds of thousands of years for ships, your purpose is your pole star for change. That's the one thing that doesn't change. And that's a critical success factor for people to feel a connection to that company purpose, especially when the apple cart is all over the place with whatever is going on for people in their day-to-day experience. So too often executives use the purpose or the mission statement and get busy on repurposing or rewording it or putting those perfect words up on the board, and not enough time on really understanding how to connect people to it and how to get people really excited and motivated and jazzed about it. And some of those speak for itself. Apple has never had a problem with creating that connection to purpose. Other organizations that maybe do a little bit more mundane work or work that feels more bureaucratic to people may have a harder time, but it's still really important that you have in your organization people who want to be there because they believe in the cause that you're supporting as an organization, beyond the profit, beyond the revenue growth, but really just the intrinsic value of why are we here and why do we exist. An enduring, compelling, juicy purpose is a very powerful enabler of change in your company, not a derailer of it. So here's something to ponder. Are you wondering if your purpose statement is compelling and juicy? Ask your people 2 questions. What is our purpose? So how many people could your company today, if you asked that question, would come back and give you the same exact words? And the second part of it is, does it inspire you every single day? This is something that's hard to just go up to people and ask outright. You're going to get what they think you want to hear. But it's a really powerful survey set of questions about really understanding whether this is something that's working well as a force in your company. Okay, so number 2, factor in creating sustainable organizational change journey is leaders go first. So leadership is defined by followership. And I think we sometimes forget this in organizations. We put people in leadership roles that are really about the title or the job or the paycheck. And we're not really measuring their effectiveness by how many people are following. If you have an organizational, large organizational change initiative, the first job of leaders is in going first is to model the new behaviors. So I see a lot of organizations that overcomplicate the change journey by trying to get all these statements of core values and all these statements of strategies, and that's really important work. But really what we're looking for with a sustainable change journey is what are the 2 or 3 behaviors that we need to adopt or change in order to do this right. And then you've got to get your leaders on board with they go first in demonstrating those to the organization, because If you get it the other way around, where we roll it all out to everybody else and we train and create change leaders and all of that, which is all good practice, we often don't demand enough of the leaders. And so they sit in a position above the change, and a lot of why people resist the change is because of that specific dynamic. Okay, so on to the third and final tip. Size matters. So here's kind of an interesting anecdote. Have you heard of Dunbar's number? Based on the work of Robin Dunbar, anthropologist back in the 1990s. And he was observing primate social structures. So suggesting that there is a cognitive limit to the number of people with whom one can maintain stable social relationships in which an individual knows who each person is and how each person relates to every other person in the group. And so there's a lot of debate as to whether this is real or true. There are a lot of organizations that are taking to heart that when you get above about 150 people, it's very difficult to maintain a stable social structure in your organization. Proponents assert that numbers larger than this really do require more restrictive rules, laws, and social norms. This is why you see large corporations with these very bureaucratic kind of cultures, because they have to impose rules and norms in the absence of just the natural organic way in which the social structure does that. I've actually been aware of at least one company I know of that split their groups after about 150 people into separate offices and created these very microcosm kind of operational divisions or departments that were able to function completely as a social structure. And many of them were set up in locations where the, hip downtown attracted the younger people, the more suburbs location attracted more of the married family couples. So it's also kind of precludes itself to getting pods together that just have more of a natural tribal affinity. So during change, this idea becomes even more relevant. In decades of culture change efforts, I have never seen large-scale changes involving thousands of people successfully take hold without years of consistent and repeated efforts to socialize the change. Whether you like it or not, no one likes being changed, especially at the whim of someone else's ideas. And so innovation has followed the pilot model for decades. I would suggest the same is true if you're not doing this already. Don't be thinking ahead in terms of the large-scale rollout, but thinking of how do we take a small change approach here? How do we pick one department with a leader who's willing to be the change, who's be the role model for this, and first pilot test the new culture or the change itself, theories and behaviors with these people. And I would not roll the change out even to them without using them as a proper focus group. So really having to test your theories of the changes that are needed and test the buy-in of the people's capacity to digest that change, where the roadblock's going to be. And you may be doing a version of this, but I'm suggesting that you actually really keep this pretty quiet and do this initially with a small cohort of people that you know you can trust to tell the truth and that you know have a stake in the change itself. The most important output is to gather solid feedback and input and listen and adjust your approach, not to see if your approach is right, but to see how wrong it is and use that as an opportunity to get feedback. Organizational change efforts that succeed first and foremost get there because they have the buy-in of the people that are implementing the change. So this is no shortcut for doing that. And the 3 tips that I've shared with you today will be a big head start and jump start in getting you off on the right foot for something that's true and lasting and meaningful, and one that everybody can embrace to help you achieve your noble purpose. So thanks for listening today. Hope you got a few good tips. Please subscribe to our channel for more videos on culture and change, and we'll see you in the next video.